I just have to tell you that there's a problem that I see. And it is that people insist on being offended. And I get it. Certain of the things about which they're being offended, I get it that they're offended. I do. But the problem is that people are unwilling to accept a reality that they need to count reasonable and proper. And that is, the truth is no less true. Hello and welcome to the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I am your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Tuesday, the 12th of October of 2021. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Remember that Rumble is my preferred platform. The subject today is the truth is no less true, and that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and run through my notes real quick, and this should give you some idea sort of where I am on things. It can be hard to accept the truth from someone you consider to be at least questionable in how they couch things. I get the hesitancy. Whether or not you accept the way somebody puts things out there, and you may be totally correct in your perspective, how they do so does not change the validity of their point. That is to say, whether or not it is valid. I'm not saying it is valid because they put something out there badly. I'm saying you should be looking at that as its own thing. When a person foolishly, in my view, compares COVID-19 vaccinations to the Holocaust, I'm by no means saying that's a smart thing to do. That said, freedom around the world is under attack, whether you accept it or not. And where I cannot agree with the current situations being comparable to with the Holocaust, I can agree with them being similar to some of those things that led up to it. You can be sure I'm not trying to make excuses for those comparing the two. Though that's true, I am attempting to get you to wake up. There are people on a daily basis losing freedom. Here in the U.S., it's comparatively weak to what's happening in, say, Australia, where people are being arrested and jailed for leaving their houses. And I want to be clear. What's happened where SARS-CoV-2 is concerned is not the beginning. It's just an extension of what has been happening for some time now. The consent of the governed is more and more falling by the wayside. Whether it's socialism, monarchy, or just quote, good old, end of quote, totalitarian oligarchy, taking those rights is immaterial. Stop knee-jerking on the foolishness of an unreasonable comparison and start listening to the basic message. Here in America, you can be tossed out of a workplace or a business in which you're trying to accomplish something. And before you go and say, that's the right of that business, I have two things for you to think about. First, when the government is suggesting the actions are such actions are reasonable, where they may not be writing laws, they are nodding in approval when folks do as they do. Secondly, folks are telling the man baking cakes that he must do so for a gay wedding, but he shouldn't do so for the unvaccinated person? Really? On the one hand, I'm not agreeing with making him do so for the gay wedding. Fact is, you can't have it both ways. Look, okay, I'm done with my notes, as you might have figured out. Let me get myself all set up. But here's what I'm trying to get across to you. I'm not a fan of people telling a person that he has to bake cakes for a gay wedding. Particularly when that guy says, if a gay person walks into my store and wants to buy a cupcake or a cake for anything but a gay wedding, I'll sell it to him. It's really about whether or not that person agrees with what the cake is being made for. Asking a Jewish baker, as many people have said, to make a Holocaust is great cake is definitely a bad idea. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Here's what I'm saying, though. Right now, we've got a vaccination which really isn't tested, never has been, may never get properly tested. Not sure how all of that will work out. I'll say again, mumps apparently took about 4 years and was one of the shortest testing periods for a vaccination out there. But we've got this vaccine that's more or less untested, and that we really don't know, therefore, what the side effects for it are. And by the way, that doesn't seem to be doing what people have advertised it as doing either, because people not just seem to be getting COVID-19, not just seem to be spreading COVID-19, but seem to be actually suffering relatively strong consequences as a result of getting it, COVID-19, not the vaccination, that it appears that the vaccination is not really doing a whole lot for them. Okay? The more important thing here, though, is in this country we have a concept of individual liberty. And I heard somebody say something that was totally silly to me, like that hospitals required people to have the flu shot. No such thing could be further from the truth. Look, I worked in a hospital for about a year myself. Nobody once asked me my vaccination status for flu. It wasn't until COVID-19 that most anybody really decided that they were going to do that. It's not something that people have been expected to do. I literally worked in a hospital in a university hospital, where they had signs in various places that said, please don't come into this area if you've had shingles. Okay? But they didn't say to people, please don't come in this area if you're not vaccinated for thus and such. But even if they did, it would have been, don't come in this area. It wouldn't have been, you can't work here. I'm not saying that there aren't certain situations where you want people to be more careful. Right? You might have people who are immunocompromised or whatever, and those people might need for folks to be more careful around them. But again, if you have a vaccination that's not keeping you from getting the disease that the vaccination is supposedly for, the illness that it's for, it really doesn't make much of a difference that you get it, the vaccination. The trick is to try and stay away from the place where people are compromised or whatever when you are ill. This is what you need to do. And this is no different for the flu than it is for COVID-19, than it is for mumps, than it is for measles or whatever. If people are immunocompromised or have some other issue that makes it so that you don't want them to get sick right at the moment, or presently very weak or whatever, it's totally understandable that you tell a person who's got measles spots all over them that they shouldn't be going into that place. And it's totally understandable telling them it would be a wonderful thing if they had the measles vaccination. But the point is, if they're not sick, that doesn't mean you don't allow them to go and visit their family in that nursing home. That's not what it means. Okay, and it never has meant that until very recently, and I'm saying it again. This is a thing that the government is pushing. Now, I'm going to say this again. Comparing the horrible, terrible, heinous things that happened in the Holocaust to being kicked out of a restaurant or even losing a job because you refused to get the COVID-19 vaccination, that's not a good comparison, and I'm not trying to say it is. And I don't think anybody who is trying to say it is thinking very well. That having been said, I'll still tell you that people are losing their freedoms, and when you give them up, I don't really agree with Drew Berquist. Drew says when you give them up, you don't get them back. I don't agree with that. But what I do say about it is it's a hard-fought thing to get them back, that you're going to fight hard. You're going to work really hard to get those things back that you've lost. Ask anybody who didn't have, ask a slave who didn't have freedom, right? Whether or not losing or regaining freedom is an easy thing. And they'll tell you it's not. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap things up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Tuesday, the 12th of October, 2021. That means tomorrow will be Wednesday, the 13th of October, 2021. Well, thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Yes, welcome to. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. Remember that you can give me a boxing glove or a plus sign on Rumble as a positive feedback. You can give me a minus sign as a negative one if you feel the need to do that. You can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's a positive feedback, or a negative one on YouTube if you choose to do that. Again, remember though that I would prefer you watch me on Rumble. The subject for today has been the truth is no less true. And the subject for tomorrow is going to be the wealth of government officials. It's actually just wealth of government officials. And I think that's an important thing to talk about, and I think we need to cover it from a few different angles. I'm going to try and do everything that I can to be fair in my presentation when I make it tomorrow. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you. Things are going okay for me. We're starting to cool down here, as would be expected for this time of year. And hopefully I will see you again on Wednesday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Tuesday, October the 12th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.